Then we move to the third speaker. The third speaker is Dr. Fotis Fitzlis, and he's a head of department of scientific documentation and supervision, the scientific service at the Hellenic Parliament. And in this time of high tech, he will talk about really a very, very extremely hot topic, that is legal informatics and interoperability patterns in support of the Greek executive state. Dr. Fitzlis, sorry for the misspelling the names. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Professor Zaboni. What a great honor to be among experts in this field and to discuss a very interesting aspect of things are developing in the Greek state. And this is nothing else but the notion of the executive state. Let me share my screen first. I hope you can all see the full screen now. This is a part of an ongoing research that I'm conducting together with Victoria Kalogiru from the European Commission. And today I'm going to speak about tools. Now, tools were the last thing Maria Musmuti talked about in her excellent talk. And we need, as a matter of fact, tools and digital tools, not only the mere manuals that are developed for decades for legislative drafting. We needed also tools to support our draftswomen, but also the member of the legislative drafting committees in order for them to develop efficient and concise laws. And today I'm going to speak about such tools that are in the process of making in Greece. What's the state of play in the Greek state right now? Now, we have developed since 2019 the law on the executive state. For the ones of you that are not fully familiar with that, it's about a top-down approach on governance. Now, this approach involves naturally all levels of governance. Each level has its own impact in the governance process, but on top there is this executive superstructure that not only plans but also controls. And exactly this is what Maria mentioned. We need also mechanisms to control the implementation of legislation. So she particularly mentioned the notion of post-legislative scrutiny, which is a method of controlling, ex post controlling how legislation is performing. And the Greek state is currently performing a very aggressive digital transformation of all levels of governance. But at the same time, there are several tools that are being developed at the central level, at the European Union level. And this is exactly the relation I want to speak about. Now, what is our vision? Our vision is, I will quote, is an end-to-end and user-centric ecosystem of tools and services. And this continues, this goes on, that supports the executive state. What does this mean? What does end-to-end means? End-to-end means that a law or a guideline, it can't be only law, it can be a secondary law, it can be also an administrative decision or a presidential decree. Let's talk about legal text maybe. So end-to-end means here that the executive state or the policy maker or the one that supervises the development and implementation of this law follows the development from the draft of the first text, as Professor Stefano excellently mentioned, until how the law performs in reality and how the courts are deciding about the law. Based on the law, what decisions courts take. User-centric, here we can speak also about citizen-centric, means that the users of the law, the stakeholders, have an actual role in developing the law. So the law does not develop itself by miracle, as Professor Stefano said, but everybody has a role in its development. And an ecosystem of tools and services, because exactly the tools that are that we hope that they will be developed, they are centrally managed and they are contained within an app store like the Google or Apple App Store, and they can be downloaded by lawmakers and citizens to so that they are fully accessible. And services that are being developed can make use of these tools. Naturally, we need technologies like legal informatics, but also more developed and emerging technologies like artificial intelligence-based technologies are at the center of such developments. And of course, one would say that you need a national or international framework within you may develop such tools and services. And this has been studied for years now, and components of such frameworks are pretty much defined. We need to have a strategy. We have a digital strategy in Greece, and the digital, we call it Bible, or a list of services that need to be digitized. We need to train our people to do so. It was mentioned by Maria and Professor Stefano. We need to know the functions that we are going to digitize, and we need also the tech to do so, as mentioned. And also we need to enable the process by for instance, by having the political will to do so. Let me go a step back. We already have such processes and such tools in Greece under development. There's, for instance, the Many Laws portal.eu that compares European legislation. This is a very interesting service for citizens and also lawmakers. This is in the last processes of development. We have at the National School of Government in Greece a LIOS instance. A LIOS is an authoring tool based on which one can draft legislation in a very concise and structured way. And the output of this tool are legal open data. And when you have the law or any legal text in open legal data, then these are reusable by third parties. They can be visualized easier for the citizen or other stakeholders to see and to understand what the law is about and how the law can be utilized in a better way. Then we have under development, technically it's in the latest stages of the procurement process, our national codification portal. This should boost the legislative drafting process. And for the first time, in the legal council of the state, there is a system, an information system under development that will make an end-to-end use of legal informatics for the support of the internal processes of how the legal council handles its cases. This would be, in my understanding and knowledge, the first end-to-end legal informatics system when developed in the Hellenic state. But this does not, these four examples are not developed themselves by miracle. They are reusing concepts and technologies that have been developed for years or are currently being developed at the European level, so at the central level. And we speak here about the European Interoperability Framework, the LIOS authoring tool, the Ref2 link, which is a technology that links between different laws or legal texts or legal documents per se. And we use, of course, core vocabularies and notions like the European legislative identifier, legal identifier. These are based on our programs and frameworks already going on in Europe. One may check for many more solutions and tools that are available, but we are currently focusing on the ones that I mentioned. Finally, let me summarize this. This is an extremely complicated and new matter that is starting, that it's in the development process. And I'm very fortunate to work in an organization like the Hellenic Parliament within a state like the Greek state that is very open-minded currently in the use and further exploitation of these interesting processes and tools. So we need a holistic approach. This has been mentioned before regarding legislative making. We need reuse of good practices and initiatives that are, we don't want to reinvent the wheel. And at the Central European level, there have been several attempts to develop such tools. We need to do our systems to develop them user-centric, and then the transition to citizen-centric is a very small and quick one. We need to make we need to make thoughts about the incorporation of disruptive technologies. We're in the era of emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, augmented reality. What are we going to do about that? Do we simply forget about that? I don't think this is even possible. We need somehow to find a way to incorporate these notions into our tools and services. And finally, last but not least, but this is really here very important, one needs to make up his or her mind how to develop, how to mobilize the public service to develop digital skills that are necessary to operate and develop these tools. And the National School of Governance Government in Greece is indeed developing such courses to support the public administrators in this very difficult road, I should say. Thank you very much, and I'm at your disposal and the disposal of our audience for any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fitzlis. Very interesting, extremely interesting presentation as to they give us as a kind of just a short insight on the potentials that the use of informatics has within the legislative drafting, but the legislative studies, I would say, in general. Also here, I have a lot of questions